Hello, this is Jerry again, video three, I believe. Today is December 20th, 2023. Um, this video is going to be the most boring one, in my opinion. It's going to be construction insurances, payment bonds, bid bonds, performance bonds. It's not the most fun stuff, but whether you work for another contractor or a company or you work for yourself, you got to know this. And it's boring, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Before I move on, though, I want to address video two that I did yesterday. Now, I don't even have a YouTube account or Rumble account yet. I'm just making videos. And then as soon as I find the time or create the time, I will start up a YouTube and Rumble and whatever social media and download all these videos. But I want to make a correction to video two when I was talking about software for takeoffs. I have used PayDirt, AgTech when I was big in excavation, grading, paving, subdivisions, big site jobs, whole nine yards. They're priceless. And there's probably a million other softwares out there since my day of doing those that are highly efficient. When I say I do my own takeoffs by hand, I mean that. I do. But in the line of work I'm in now, design build, I'm doing mainly treatment plants for wastewater, water, big generator jobs, electrical controls, a lot of pump stations, wastewater, storm and water, more wastewater than the rest. Whether they're brand new, going 30, 35 feet deep, new wet wells, valve vaults, flow meters, generators, whole nine yards, to booster stations, retrofits. I don't need that software anymore. I can do all my takeoffs by hand. So I wanted to make a correction on yesterday or video two. And I have nothing against software. I've used them in the field and in the office. I'm just not quite in that heavy excavation like I used to be, and paving and grading. So I have no use for it now. We do all the same stuff in our line of work, or the work I'm in currently. We just do it on a lot smaller scale. It might be only paving 120 tons versus 6,000 tons. It might be finished grading a parking lot size or a new road going in, but it's not tens of thousands of tons of rock, So anyway, same thing with mainline sewer and water and all that. Our pressure lines are the same as water. We do a lot of water too, but I'm not doing miles of it anymore. I'm only doing, in the last couple of years, I think 1,100 feet on a 6-inch force main that we did over the coast. I can do all that by hand. So I wanted to make a correction on that. And I haven't even posted this on social media yet, so I could technically go back and edit my video from yesterday, video two, but I just don't give a shit. I'm not going to. You're getting it raw. There's no script here. There's no editing. There's no background music. So anyway, so moving forward, let's talk bid bonds. So in the states that I've turned in hundreds and hundreds of public jobs, projects, bids, you have you got to always usually on public jobs turn in a bid bond, which most of the time, in my experience, there's a lot of states I haven't worked in, so I can't speak for everybody, but it's usually 10% of your bid. I've seen 5% often, but most of the time I see 10%. And usually what that means is you guaranteeing your bid. So if you're turning a bid in for, let's say, $1 million, and let's say you're really low and you're a little uncomfortable with your bid. Now, there's ways around it. Like one, if you can prove mathematical error, they'll a lot of times let you out of your bid if you bid too cheap and let you out, no pain, whatever, you just lost all your time estimating. There's also another way with the subcontract tier form. I'll talk about that in a minute. I've never had to do it, but I've known people that have. But a bid bond guarantees 10% of your bid. So if the customer does not find a reason to let you out of the job, then either you got to pay 10% out of your pocket or your bonding company does, which is not good. Good luck getting bonding for a while or getting a decent premium. You're going to be hurting on that. Luckily, I've never had to do that in my 26 years of estimating. Okay. I don't recommend this. I've heard it done. You usually have 2 hours after a bid opening to turn in your first tier. It's got to be in the envelope, got to have all the names, the dates, the CCV number, blah, blah, blah. It looks just like, the other one. But you have 2 hours. So if you have a bid at 2 p.m. and you're low bidder and you realize, oh shit, I left a lot of money on the table. Where did I make a mistake? Everybody else is pretty tight. Then you can just keep your first tier into your armpit and run out the door and not turn it in. If you don't turn it in within 2 hours of the bid, your bid's considered non-responsive and they reject it. I think it's really cheesy to do that and it's not ethical, but I've heard it done and it's probably saved a few people's heinies. So that's a bid bond. Now, a performance bond and payment bond, which in my case is always issued through the same broker, the same bonding company who we use. We'll start with a payment bond. A payment bond guarantees you're going to pay your vendors, your subcontractors, blah, 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 blah. If you don't pay them and there's a dispute later on in arbitration litigation and they prove that you didn't pay your subcontractor vendors in full, they can come after your payment bond. The bonding company has to pay them the remaining money, whatever you owe them, and you're not going to have very good bonding for a while. Okay. Performance bond is the performance of your company. Did you finish the job? Did you get kicked off the job because you weren't doing a good, whatever the reason, you got booted from the job, the customer, whether it be city, county, state, fed, whoever, public money, they can get a hold of your bonding company, go after your performance bond, and then they have to find a different contractor to finish your portion of work, and it'll be paid out of your performance bond. That's kind of the bond. I can go deeper into bonding, but I'm not. I'm just giving you the cliff notes. Setting up bonding is fun too, because, you know, if you're a small private contractor, it's not as bad. It's more like a credit check. And, you know, they have what's like fast track bonding for $250 or $350 or 400,000. You pay a higher premium, but, you know, if you have mainstream bonding like we do, it's usually percentage per thousand, and you get a good deal if you've got a good record. But you usually got to have a CPA when you're starting to do bigger jobs, because you need to turn in all your CPA reports. You need to do, we use QuickBooks. So every 6 months, we'll do like an internal review and send them stuff, you know, keep the bonding company happy, you know, bonding company happy and stuff like that stuff. It's boring. It's not the fun part of the job, but you need to know it. And you don't have to use QuickBooks. There's probably other software. We just use, my partner uses QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks for both my companies, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Insurances. Working in the Northwest with our companies, I know other areas probably have a little bit different setup or different requirements. I'm just going to stick with what I know in the area I work in. And I've worked in a lot of different states. They've always had little different requirements, blah, 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 blah. But if you're doing, in my case, our case, my partner's case, if we do pretty much 95% public work. So we got to have what's a public works bond, which basically you don't, I guess you can get it through your bonding company. We get it through the insurance company. You can probably get it multiple places. Ours at $30,000. It's just basically if you have an employee that disputes he wasn't paid the Boley, Davis-Bacon prevailing wage to a T, they can come attack your public works bond and your employee gets paid. We've never been down that route. I've never worked for a company that I know of that has, but I'm sure it has happened or wouldn't exist. Now, your insurances are another thing. You can get insurance as a smaller contractor doing private jobs where you can only do certain public jobs up to a dollar amount, and you can only do as a subcontractor public jobs to a certain dollar amount. If you want to become a public works contractor, it isn't a test you take. It isn't anything like that. It basically, you just pay more money to your insurance company, and they note you from being private to public, and you turn that into your state CCB, whatever, and it's online. Everybody can check you. But you have insurances for, everything, for your excavators, your dozers, your loaders, your graders, your rubber tire, every single thing, these insurances, workman's comp, every single thing. So I'm not going to get into the states that we're working in, because if you're listening to this in Florida, I never worked in Florida. I don't know what the requirements are there, but definitely check into the minimum insurance you need for your company and your employees. Check into your bonding. Some bonding companies also are insurance. You might be able to run everything through one company. We happen to have two different firms we use, one for insurances and one for bonding. The long story to that, why we did that, they cost us a bid that we were low on because they didn't get the bid bond in time. So we do your research on bonding companies. Find a good one, fast one, thorough, because nothing worse than not getting a bid bond when you just spent 2 or 3 or 4 weeks bidding a massive job. So that's kind of the bonding and insurance stuff. Do your own research in your own state or whatever state you're going to work in. If you don't own your own company and you're an estimator, project manager, or construction manager for another firm, then I know you don't have to really dive into it a bunch. When I worked for a big company, I knew half of what I needed to know, but when I went self-employed, it was a huge learning curve. It was a pain in the butt. So I recommend learning as much as you can if you do work for a firm. figure out their ins and outs, the bonding, how they prepare it, how they use a CPA internally, whatever it may be. It's good to know. It's good to have in your back pocket. So anyway, I wanted to get this boring video out and move on to more estimating, cost estimating, project managing, stuff more interesting for the person looking for it. Anyway, have a wonderful and blessed day. Try to always do something good for somebody else.